We begin today the Gemara on Daf Mem Hey Amud Aleph, where it says I ba yisema. So this is the middle of an inyan where the Gemara is discussing a contradiction that there was in two braises regarding hefker, and this is relevant for the mitzvah of Maisris. In the second braise the Gemara brought here, it said that if a person is mafker his property that has all the produce growing in it, and the next morning he goes and he's zeiche back in it himself, so because he was zeiche in it from hefker, so he's going to be potter from Meiser. Okay? That's the second braise. What does it say in the first braise? That a person that's mafka something, and nobody was zeiche in it. So because he's mafka it and no one's zeiche in it, so what happens? It was never hefker. We're following the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says the fact that no one was zeiche in it yet, it's not considered to be hefker. We're going here with the explanation that the Gemara explained before, according to Rabbi Yochanan, that Rabbi Yossi says hefker is only when someone else is zeich in it. If no one's zeich in it yet, so then you can retract it. So it's not considered to be hefker b'chlal. So that's the contradiction here of the two braises. In the first braise it says that it's not hefker, and you're still going to be chayiv in maisris. And the second braise says that you were mafker it, no one else was zeich in it, you just went and was zeich in it again yourself. It is hefker, and you will be potter from maisris. So before the Gemara said that one braise is Rabbi Yossi and the other braise is the Rabbanon that say that even without someone else being zeich in it, it becomes hefker right away. But now the Gemara gives another answer. Both of these braises follow the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, and it's not a contradiction. Let's see. Zok the Gemara I ba yisema. The second answer we could say is that it's all Rabbi Yossi. But even according to Rabbi Yossi, this whole idea that we said that according to Rabbi Yossi it's not going to be hefker until somebody is zeich in it. So what is the difference? It depends how you were mafker it. If you're being mafker something, this property here, in front of two people, so then takad halacha is that the hefker is not really hefker until someone else receives it, because until that point, it's you can retract, and it's like a gift. Just like by a gift, only when the recipient is zeich in it, then the gift takes effect. It's the same thing over here. So why is this so? Because when you mafka something in front of two people, let's see what the Gemara says afterwards. And if you mafka it in front of three people, then even Rabbi Yossi would agree that it becomes hefker right away, and you can't retract it. What's the difference between two and three people? When you mafka something in front of three people, this is something that's now public knowledge. You're doing it in a setting that everybody's going to find out about it. If everybody finds out about it, so that means your intention with the hefker is to make it properly hefker available to anybody. So if so, even before anybody else is zeiche in it, even Rabbi Yossi agrees that this is a real declaration of hefker, and that's it. You gave up your ownership to it. Amashenkin, in a case where you mafkir in front of two people is not considered to be something which is public knowledge. Two people means that what are you really expecting? You're making an hefker for one of these two people to get it. So that's very similar to a gift. You're not intending for it to become hefker, that it should be available for anybody. Your intention is that one of these two people should be zeich in it. So in such a case, Rabbi Yossi says that until these two people, one of them is not going to be zeich in it, so then it's not yet really hefker. You can still retract it, because your whole kavana is that only one of these two people should be zeich in it. If you want that everybody should have the ability to be zeich in it, so why are you saying it in such a private setting? Only in front of two people. Should have said it publicly for everybody. So that itself proves that it's really, your intention is that it should be like a matana. So what the Gemara is saying is that in the Braisa that it said that it becomes hefker, and therefore if you yourself went and was zeiche in it the next morning, that it is hefker, was speaking about when you were mafker it in front of three people. So there, if you were mafker it in a public setting, and no one went and was zeiche in it, and you went and was zeiche in it the next morning, it's going to be potter from Meiser. The Braisa that says that when you were mafker it, the hefker did not take effect, and therefore it's not going to be potter from Meiser, is when you were mafker it only in front of two people, and therefore the hefker does not take effect. Sagt the Gemara, it brings a source for this. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rab Shimi ben Yaitzadik. Kol ha-mafker b'fnei shloisha. If you mafker something in front of three people, have a hefker. So then the hefker takes effect immediately, even according to Rabbi Yossi. It's a public setting. Everyone knows about this. B'fnei shnayim, but if it's only in front of two people, so now we expect that only these two people know about it. No one else is going to find out about it. So then lo have a hefker. Then it does not become hefker. By the way, this is similar to what the Gemara says regarding lashon hara. By lashon hara, the Gemara says that kol milsa de misamri ba'pit lasa, that it's something that's being said in public in front of three people, So it's public knowledge. Everybody knows about this, right? So if you're sharing, or it's not really regarding Lashon Hara, regarding the chilus, if you're sharing something about someone else that was already mentioned and said in a public setting, so then that's not called chilus. You're not sharing something about someone else's private life. It's already known in a public setting. It's something that was done berabim. But something that's in the privacy of only two people, so then that's rechilus. You can't it's not talk to someone else about someone else's private things. That's called rechilus. So it's the same thing over here regarding hefker. There's a difference between in front of two people or in front of three people. So the Gemara of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Omar. However, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says, and most of the Rishonim here say that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi is not really a continuation from before, because until here the Gemara is explaining Rabbi Yossi's opinion. That's Rabbi Yossi that says that a hefker is like matana, that there's a difference between two people, in front of two people, or in front of three people. But Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi is explaining the opinion of the Rabbanon, and the Rabbanon hold that the hefker takes effect immediately. Doesn't make a difference if it's two or three people. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said, Devar Teire, that according to the Rabbanon, Minat Teire, Afila be'echad have a hefker. Even if you're being mafke something, and it's just in front of one more person, it becomes hefker. Why did Chachamim come and institute and say that hefker should only take effect in front of three people? So if there's someone there that's going to be zeiche in this hefker, you have to have another two witnesses to be able to testify that they saw that this person has the rights and he was taka zeiche in it. If you're not going to have three people that are there, one person's going to be zeiche, nobody else sees this, so therefore nobody else knows about this, and therefore later he can't prove that it's actually his. So therefore, in order that there shouldn't be any fights about this, that he was zeiche, it was not zeiche, so Chachamim were masakin that the hefker should only take effect in a situation where you have witnesses that can testify about this. So over here in the Pshat of this Gemara, there are some Rishonim that understand this Gemara literally when it says in the Gemara here that Dvar Teira Fila Be'echad, that the Gemara is actually saying that even in Teira there is a certain limitation. If you declare something hefker and there's nobody present, even in Teira the hefker will not take effect, because it's pointless. You come and announce in the middle of the night and there's nobody there, my property is hefker. Doesn't mean anything. If you're saying it at least in front of one person, so then it means something. But there's other Rishonim that say that no, Minat Teira, you don't even need one person there. Minat Teira, it's your decision. You decide with your das and your declaration that it's hefker. You don't need anybody there. When the Gemara uses the term echad, it's lav dafke. The Gemara just means to say that even without echad, it's saying echad as opposed to three, but really the Gemara means to say that you don't need, for Minat Teira, you don't need anybody present in order for it to be hefker, because hefker is not connected to the recipient. Adarabah, that's the whole difference in hefker and matana. Hefker means it's my decision to declare it ownerless. But midrabanan, they want that the recipient that's being kind of this, that he should have the ability to prove that it's his kinyan, so therefore it has to be in front of three people, so there should be witnesses that should be able to be testify about this. Now, one more point to finish off this Indian over here. The Ran over here says that the last blat or so that we were discussing here, the opinion of Rabbi Yossi and the Rabbanon, whether the hefker that you declare takes effect immediately or it only takes effect when anyone is kaina it, and only then can't you retract from your hefker. This is all a discussion according to Rabbi Yechanan's understanding of the machlokes of Rabbi Yossi and the Rabbanon. But the Gemara already before refuted that understanding of the machlokes. And the Gemara brought before the opinion of Rava that Rabbi Yossi and the Rabbanan are not arguing about hefker b'chlal. Everybody agrees that when you declare something hefker, it becomes hefker immediately. The Gemara before brought that this whole thing about by a neder, the fact that Rabbi Yossi says that you can't declare something hefker, and then someone that's not allowed to have a no from you to take it, even though seemingly he's taking it from hefker, Rava said that's not because Rabbi Yossi holds it's not hefker. Rather, Rabbi Yossi had a gzeira that you may not declare it hefker properly. You may declare it hefker with the intention that this person should get it, so you really never gave it away to hefker. That was a hezbollah the Gemara said before. So according to the Ran and many Rishonim, this entire blat of Gemara here is all shaloya liba de hilchasa. And the actual halacha is, like the maskan of the Gemara here, like Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says, we follow according to the Rabbanan that the hefker takes effect immediately. Hadran aloch ein bein amoder. That's the conclusion of the fourth Perek of Masechta Nedarim, ein bein amoder. And for those that are using the hard scroll, it's the conclusion of the first chelik of the Masechta. Okay, let's continue to the next Perek. You ready? Okay, sagt der Heilige Mishnah, Hashutvin Shenodru, partners. This Mishnah is going to speak about a Mishnah, the continuation, and different things in the Masechta, as the name of the Perek is Shutfin. What happens when Shutfin are making a neder not to have anah from each other? So now you have a real problem, because these people are partners with each other. So what kind of anah may they have from each other? What kind of anah can they not have from each other? Zak the Mishnah, Shutfin shenadru, so partners make a neder not to have anah zemizeh, not to have anah one from each other. So the neder is both ways. None of them could have anah from each other. Asurin likanas l'chatzer, they may not enter into a chatzer that they own jointly, that they own a partnership. None of them could go into this chatzah because each one is having anah from the other one in this chatzah. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, however, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says, Zeh nichnas l'toich shaloi, and v'zeh nichnas l'toich shaloi. They're partners in this property here, but each one is essentially entering into his property. And each one says, listen, I have the ownership here, so I'm not having anah from you. I'm entering into my property. That's the machlokes over here. So this machlokes between Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov and the Tana Kama is a very general machlokes regarding the concept of shutfus b'chlal. So the Ran over here, in the first section of the Ran, he explains, what are they really arguing about? Why does Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov say that each one argues and says that I'm entering into my property and there's no problem? I'm not having a no from my partner. And the Tana Kama says, no, if it's a joint ownership, so you're not entering only into your property, you're having a no of the other person. What is behind this machlokes? So he brings from the Gemara in Baba Kama, here in the Nedarim it's not explained, but the Gemara in Baba Kama explains that this machlokes is based on a general machlokes that you find many times in Shas, which is called the machlokes of yesh breida or ein breida. What does that mean? When you have something that you do and in the beginning it's not clear what's happening over here, and then later it becomes clarified. Do I say that it retroactively clarifies what it was from the beginning? There's many examples for this. Let's use one example. If you write a get, when you write a get, the get has to be written, lishma, has to be written properly, having in mind who you're writing the get for. Let's say a person is married to two wives. Both of these wives have the same name. They both have the same name of Leah. So you go to the sefer and you say to him, write a get. Who's it for? I'll figure out later which wife I'm going to divorce. He doesn't know right now. So when the get is being written, the sefer is writing it for whichever wife he's going to want to use it for. But it's unknown at this point. What happens is later he takes this get and he decides, okay, I'm going to use it for Leah number 1, not Leah number 2. So now here there's a machlokes. You could say that because now he's actually using it for one of his wives, so now it retroactively clarifies that when the sefer was writing it for that one wife, this is the one that it was written for, and therefore it's considered to be written lishma. Or you could say, no, you can't say that it retroactively clarifies this. When it was written, it was unknown. Now that it's being used for one person, so you want to now use it for one person, so that's today, now. But that doesn't go back to before. You can't say that l'chatchila was written lishma. That's one of the examples for this idea of Bereda. And there's many others. This comes up in Shas many times. So the Gemara says that over here it's the exact same thing. How do you understand partnership? Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov understood that the way a partnership works is both partners have full ownership on the entire property. How is it possible for two people to have full ownership on the actual property itself? Either Reuven owns it or Shimon owns it. The answer is the idea of Bereda. What does the idea of Bereda say? That true, when we came into this ownership together in the beginning, it was unclear who exactly owns what over here. But Bereda says that if on Sunday Reuven's going to use it, so Sunday he's the full owner. On Monday Shimon's going to use it, so on Monday Shimon is the full owner. In the time that each partner is using the property, now it becomes clarified that at that time I am the full owner of the property. So in other words, the way shutfus works, according to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, is when I'm using the property, at this time it's completely mine. It doesn't have to be Sunday and Monday. It could be whatever minute it is. Whatever time I'm using the property, I'm the full owner. The other person is using the property, he's the full owner. Because... Again? Okay, if they're both using it together at the same time, so then each one is utilizing his full ownership at the same time. His sort of portion of the ownership. Okay, but the point is that it's possible to say that that partnership in a property means that each one has a full ownership over it. Why? Because in the time that I'm using it, then I have the full ownership, and when he's using it, he has a full ownership. So therefore, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says, if you make a neder not to have enough from your partner, so when you walk into the property, So now I'm walking into my property. At this time, I'm the full owner. Mashenkin, the Tanakama, disagrees with this. The idea of partnership is not that each one has a full ownership in the property. The idea of partnership is, why? Because the Tanakama holds there's no such a thing as Breira. I can't say that we're going to buy it together and then I'm going to own it later fully and you're going to own it later fully. If we're buying it together, there's no such a thing as Breira. We're not going to say later that it's going to be clarified now that the intention of our original acquisition of this property is that each one should own it fully at this and this time. That's not, you can't say that. And therefore, how does partnership work? The way partnership works is that the MS, each one only owns a part of the property, only a chelik of it. Now, if you only own a chelik of it, so how do you have the rights to enter in this property? You only have the right to use something that's fully yours. If it's not fully yours, how are you allowed to enter into a property and ownership? That's a partnership. The very fact that there's a partner, shouldn't we say that Reuven's ownership stops Shimon from entering, and Shimon's ownership stops Reuven from entering? So what's the pshat? The idea of a partnership is, besides the fact that I own a part, and you own a part, I also give you rights to use. Each one is, so there's two different parts of it to the ownership. Number one, each one of us owns a percent of it, 50% of it. So now you could say, the other 50% that you don't own, that stops you from entering. No, but that's the idea of a partnership. The idea of a partnership is, besides the fact that I own 50% and you own 50%, the partnership is that I give you the rights to use my 50% and you give me the rights to use your 50%. And therefore we're able to enter both into the property whenever we want. So which means that according to this opinion, there's no full ownership that any of them has in the property when they are using it. When Reuven walks into the property, he's using 50% of his ownership, but he also needs the rights of the other person to be able to enter. And same thing the other person. Every time each one of them enters, the way they're allowed to use this property is by getting the rights from the other person to be able to enter. If you're walking into the property in a case when each one of them made a neder not to have enough from each other, so they can't walk into the property. My only way I'm able to enter into the property is by using your rights to allow me to enter. And therefore he says that they're not allowed to enter into the property. That's the hezbollah that the Ran gives over here for this Gemara, based on the Gemara in Baba Kama. Just one more point. There's a longer Ran here. Ep is something we have to learn over here a little bit more from this Ran. Another point that Ran says, like I mentioned, this idea of Bereda you find in many, many different places in Torah. And the Ran brings over here a few of the examples. And the Ran says that over here we paskin like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, that yesh Bereda. B'chlal, the rule always is, we always paskin like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. I think we had it not long ago. The Gemara says, Mishnas Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov kav v'noki. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, all the halachas that he taught, he didn't teach a lot, but whatever he taught was 100% pure, and therefore over here we're paskin like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. So the Ran says, if so, there's a big question, because here we're paskin like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, which means that we follow the rule of yesh Bereda, that every partner, even though l'chatchila they bought it together, but we later say that this clarifies that each one is getting their portion of the property fully in their time when they're entering to their property. Or really not just a portion, each one is getting fully the property when they enter. The concept of Bereda. Question is, over here, we're passing like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, which says yesh Bereda, but in other places in Shas, the rule regarding this question of Bereda or not is, the Gemara in Beis says this, in a few places it says that regarding halachas minat Torah we paskin ein Bereda, and only regarding halachas midrabanan we paskin yesh Bereda. And over here we're talking about a halacha minat Torah regarding a neder. So why over here are we pasking like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov? So the Ran says the case of Bereda over here is not exactly similar to Bereda that's used in other places. Take the example that I mentioned before regarding a get. When you write the get, so l'chatchila, when this Sefer wrote the get and he's not sure for which wife he's writing it, b'shas he's writing it, it's completely unknown. It's only going to become known later when the husband decides to give it to one wife as opposed to the other. So over there, the Bereda it's being clarified completely later. Now the question is, do I say that if it's clarified later, that retroactively it shows what really happened in the beginning? Over here he says, when it comes to partners that are buying a property together, it's not really something that's becoming clarified only later, when each one decides to enter into the property to use it in their time. Right in the beginning of the partnership, we already see that they're buying this together. So we know that there's a joint ownership in this property. And we know that the plan over here is that Reuven is going to use it sometimes and Shimon is going to use it sometimes. So true, in the beginning, the details of this shutfis is still not clarified. When exactly Reuven is going to use it, when exactly Shimon is going to use it, that's not clarified. But nevertheless, there is a big point of the partnership that's there already right in the beginning. It's only the details that have to be clarified later. In such a case, we pass like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov that yesh bereida, since only the details have to be clarified later, we say that when each one enters into the property, it's clarified that this is his full ownership in the property. And again, therefore, if there's a neder, he's able to walk into the property because it's completely his at this time. That's the pshat in this inyan. Let's just learn one more line of the Mishnah, just because it's a continuation here. Ushneim asurin lahamid rechayim v'taner olagadol tarnagaylim. Now, both of these people that made this neder not to have enough from each other, everybody would agree this is not totally in the machlokes of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov and the Tanakama. Everybody will agree that you're not allowed to go and put a mill or an oven or to bring in chickens into this property that they own together. And the reason is because this is not what their partnership was for. Their partnership was not made with this intention that each one is going to move in and bring in all their stuff, which is going to make noise there or take up space, and the other person won't be able to be there. The partnership over here is that each one is going to be able to walk through this area. It's like, for example, when you have a house that people own, and then you have the chotzer, the courtyard in front of the house, for people to be able to walk through, to be able to get into their house. It's not being made for people to bring in their belongings over there. So therefore, if each one that has a neder, not to have a no from each other, and he's going to bring in stuff over there in that area, so he's taking a no from the other person's space to be able to walk in over there. And the Ran adds, even in a situation where the other person is not makpid, the other person says, okay, you can leave your bikes here, you could leave your things here, you could leave your oven here. It doesn't matter if he's makpid or not, because when it comes to a neder, this is connected to something we learned before already, walking into someone else's property that you have a neder, that you may not have a no from him, even if he's mevater, even if you know that just walking through, he's not makpid on this, it doesn't matter. If you're not allowed to have a no from him, you're not allowed to use his property in such a way as well.